Hello, Ken. What's the watermelon for?
Oh, it's just a comforting symbol for world.
Right. So your geography GCSE is only in 3 days' time. What sort of revision have you been doing?
Well, I'm just reading through his textbook, but it seems to be to no real avail because there's too much stuff to learn and I'm not really retaining anything. It's only statistics, facts. This is going to be a terrible test.
Well, I expect you to be getting a grade 9, or you have to be peeling
Nine?
potatoes for the next year.
Come on, 9 is too high. Let's set our sights on a 6. Let's be conservative for now.
A 6? But surely your documentary knowledge from watching all those documentaries in those geography lessons will help you get that grade 9.
Oh yeah, that.
So, okay, let me actually quiz you. Who's the 1 millionth Pole who arrived into the UK? What's his name?
Bogdan, was it? Something like that?
It seems that you will be getting a grade 9 today. Is this person you? Are you in a similar position as Ken? Well, do not worry, for we will come to your aid.
For geography, it's a bulky subject in terms of the content, but if you take it at bite-sized chunks, then it will be much better. So, for example, don't think of the entire course as a steep mountain you have to climb. Kind of break it down to maybe like tectonics, hot deserts, something like that. Whatever the topics are that you're studying.
The textbook in geography will definitely come in handy. So whatever syllabus you're doing, there'll be like one specific designated textbook. So we did AQA, and that was a textbook with like loads of content. Obviously, don't memorize everything from the textbook. Just be aware of key ideas, key concepts in geography, such as how volcanoes form, how plates move, and general things like that. For each case study, what I advise is memorizing a few key facts. So like go through the specification, find the case studies, and make like a fact sheet for each case study. But don't go overboard with the facts. So you basically only need like 2 facts for each category. So you've got social, economic, and like human factors of like pretty much everything. So for example, Eiffel Yokul, what was the impact of that? You just get 2 social, 2 economic, two human factors, and then you sort of write that down and then try and memorize it.
Yeah, and given the number of case studies, a good idea would be to maybe approach 1 or 2 case studies a day if you're starting revision early. But even if you're starting revision late, then you shouldn't try and take all the case studies in at once. To help with retaining case study knowledge, maybe just test yourself, listen often, maybe even on the go. So maybe during a bus journey or a walk, just try and recall the facts for certain case studies that you've done, and that will help them to get more stuck into your head and be able to spill more readily onto the exam paper when you do the exam.
Yeah, what happened in our year was someone made like a massive Quizlet with like loads of facts in it, and some people just use that to revise. So if you could do that, that'd be good.
I don't know that. Okay, yeah. So yeah, people making Quizlets might be useful. So don't worry about learning exact numbers as well for facts. Like you don't need to know the exact number of people who died during Hurricane Katrina or whatever. So a rough ballpark figure, like as long as you don't make it up during the exam and it sounds reasonable enough to the examiner, they won't go looking it up. Obviously, if they do look it up and it's wrong, then they won't award you any credit. They won't penalise you, but they won't award you any credit for it.
Yeah, I've definitely not made up made up any facts in a geography exam before. Okay, I mean, if you think about it, like the examiners have to like mark so many papers. So are they going to check every fact?
Yeah, as long as it sounds reasonable, you
Yeah.
can get away with it.
And yeah, so don't like memorize the exact number of anything. Basically, just like round it up or down.
So in terms of the exam technique, I mean, it varies for each specification. So we did AQA, but I think it should hold for most other specifications. So AQA has like a mix of different styles of questions. At the start of the paper, you have, at the start of each section, so you get like several sections per paper. At the start of each section, you get like 1 or 2 mark questions, maybe based on simple recall or data analysis. And then you'll come to a meteor 4 to 6 mark questions, well, 4 and 6 mark questions, which might be based on a figure. So there'll usually be something like referring to figure whatever and your own knowledge, evaluate the impacts of this or assess the impacts of this. And for the 4 markers, you'll do 2 points, and for the 6 markers, you guess that you'll do 3. And obviously, if you're not sure about one of your points and you still have time, maybe add like another one for insurance. In terms of the points, use the point evidence explain. Like, it's basically the same for every subject. It's no different for geography.
Yeah, so you do that for the 6 markers and for the 9 markers especially. So for the 9 markers, you also do 2 points for, 1 point against, and then a conclusion with an introduction where you just define that one key term, and that's basically your 9 marks.
So to help with understanding exam technique, we've got a example GCSE paper up here. It's a 2019 paper, which is the paper we did. And the point of this is to illustrate how much of it is actually common sense rather than actual recall. So the recall really comes in at the start. In fact, even the first question here isn't really a recall question. Like,
what is extreme weather?
Yeah. And like multiple choice questions are nice and easy, and you get some figures which you can just use to help you answer the question. And these are your 6 markers. So using figure 2 in your own understanding suggests how extreme weather can have economic and social impacts. So for something like this, I'd actually recommend 2 small points for economic impacts. So for example,
Deep freeze.
trade stalling, or people not being able to work, and then social impacts like people not being able to see friends, or going on holiday, just kind of like the
Talk about houses being damaged or something.
Yeah,
it's so much waffle. I'm not even gonna lie.
Yeah, exactly. And they give you plenty of space for it. You can just write. You can write like this space. And you don't have to even use the extra space to get full marks. So yeah, for this it's just common sense.
That's fine.
And this might be
that's knowledge.
Yeah. But something like this is common sense because you get data for it. That's really cool. Okay, so here we come to a 4 marker. So explain how alternative energy production and planting trees may help to reduce the rate. So you just do 2 paragraphs, one explaining how alternative energy production and planting trees can be the next paragraph. And this is not even recall, like it's pretty much common sense. Maybe include like a number or something like that in it.
Yeah.
But otherwise, we all know how planting trees and using other sources of energy can help reduce climate change. So this is the 12 marker. You get 3 spag marks, which everyone usually gets as long as you can write properly. And it's an evaluate question, so whether or not you agree that long-term responses are more important than immediate responses. And as I said, just do 2 points for, 2 points against, and then say what sides you agree on. And then that's one section, and the same structure of questions will be for like the other sections. So you can see here, mixture of data analysis and recall questions initially, moving on to some source questions, so hot environments, cold environments, and talking about the adaptations. And then a 9 marker, talking about like the extent of human activity causing desertification, things like that. Okay, so then you come to section C, and make sure you don't make the mistake of doing all 3 sections, because you only need to do 2. So
2, I remember the mock. Some people did all 3.
Yeah.
And some people just did one of them.
Yeah.
Just pick a section and just
So at the beginning they give you pretty clear instructions. Answer all questions in A and B, and answer 2 questions in section C. So make sure you read that carefully. So I mean, it's the same thing. So a mixture of recall questions and map questions. Actually, the map questions, they do give you map questions sometimes. Not in this case though. And then a 4 marker, and then a 6 marker. And that's repeated for the next section. So describe, study a figure, 4 marker, and a 6 marker. And that's your end of paper 1. So you can see a lot of it is actually common sense and applying data, applying sources to your answers.
Yeah. And for pretty much all questions, if you just use social factors, economic factors, and human factors, just think of like any reasons that could affect those three categories. You should include them. And this is basically the same for paper 2 as well.
Paper 2 in particular, something you should always think about is like employment, because there's always like a loop that goes on. So employment opportunities leading to more income, leading to more tax for the government, leading to more money for development. And that is just something you can reuse again and again, because like it's so like versatile, I guess, in how you can use it in your answer. Okay, so paper 1 and 2 are both fairly congruent in the type of questions they ask, but paper 3 is the odd one out, and paper 3 is actually asking about practical applications of geography. So, for the first section, for the first half of the paper, you'll be given pre-release material before the exam, which you go through in class.
Yep.
You study it in depth, and then you get these questions on it. So you get some basic questions followed by some 6 markers, 4 markers, and then a 12 marker, or I think it's a 9 marker or 12 marker.
This is for section A.
Yeah, 12 marker. 12 marker.
Oh, plus 3 spag marks.
Yeah, so it'll be like whatever proposal they're planning in the source material, and then you have to explain or evaluate whether or not you agree with it or not. And in terms of the other question, you can see there's 1 4 marker, 1 6 marker, 2 6 markers. So 2 6 markers, 1 4 marker, 1 12 marker, and the rest are basic like user source, evaluate or analyze data questions. But then section B is the unseen stuff. Well, half of it is unseen, so you get some data which you have to fill in. It's basically data analysis. So this is like the unfamiliar stuff. Short questions, only 1 4 mark, as you can see. Before they then move on to your own fieldwork, so they'll be specific in asking whether they want you to talk about your physical fieldwork or your human fieldwork. So make sure you read this bit carefully, and then they ask questions about your methods, limitations, evaluations, improvements, things like that. So. Data presentation for this question, risk for this. Okay, and they ask you about your humans, so they'll probably cover both in the exam. So assess the suitability of a location chosen, and a 9 marker on to what extent did the data collected allow you to reach valid conclusions.
Yeah. So basically for fieldwork, the main thing you need to know inside out is the method, so how you actually collected it, the limitations of the method, how valid was it, accuracy, reliability, and precision. So quite similar to science actually. Then you just use that to make arguments for and against. And especially for the 9 markers, you need to bolt on a conclusion where you need to justify one of the reasons. So it can be any of the reasons, like whether for or against, but you need to justify it. So similar to most other subjects.
Yeah, and if it's like a to what extent question, make sure you actually answer the question by saying, to a small extent, to a great extent, to a full extent, or something like that. Yeah, and that basically summarizes all of our geography tips that should help you get a high grade, hopefully a 9. But
yeah, I mean, geography is one of the subjects which actually you need to put in a bit of work. So it's not like maths where you can just pretty much turn up and get in. Well, for some people.
Yeah, thankfully the grade boundaries are relatively low. So that allows for a bit more leeway in how many marks you can lose. But make sure all of your answers are high quality, because if you start losing 1 or 2 marks for the 4 and 6 markers, they do add up by the end of the paper.